Welcome everyone. A few weeks ago, I created a fantasy doll with powers inspired by the element of Earth. I was really happy with how she turned out, so I decided to turn it into a little series. So today, I will be creating a water elemental. Using a Lagoona blue as a base, I first start by customizing her hands and forearms. Unlike the rest of her body, Lagoona's hands and forearms are actually transparent plastic. I really wanted to expose this feature as I think it's really beautiful and interesting, so I use acetone and some cotton buds to gently wipe the paint away. Once that's done, I decide to remove the fins from her arms. I will be eventually giving her new fins that won't really match her sculpted ones. To help create a gradient from her body colour to her new forearms, I use Citadel model paint in the colour Wraithbone to gently spray on a transition. Moving on to the body modifications, I cut out round fin shapes from some clear thermoplastic. This is a special sheet of plastic that becomes more pliant with heat. Off camera, I use a hairdryer to heat up the fin shapes and create a wavy pattern along their edges. I originally was going to give her two big fins on her hips, but in the end I didn't add them as I thought they crowded the design too much. I sketched out where I wanted each fin to sit on her legs, and then using my Dremel tool, I carved in grooves for the fins to sit in. At this point, I blush the body with my chalk pastels. I use Mr. Superclear in between layers of blushing and at the end to seal everything. This would dull the effect of the thermoplastic, so I had to blush before I added the fins. The colour palette for this doll is a kind of ombre effect from light green to navy blue, and I wanted to use that gradient wherever I could. I especially love how it turned out on her transparent arms. I then added micro glitters and pearl powders. I do this about 2 or 3 times as the Mr. Superclear can dull the shine, and you have to build up a few layers. Most iridescent pearl powders work best over dark colours, and I'm in love with the effect of the green powder over the top of the navy blue. Just so pretty, I think. On the final layer of blush, I add some design details that I imagine are halfway between scales and freckles. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but I think they're super cute. Once the blushing is all sealed, I can glue in the first set of fins. This doll has a lot of rhinestones in her design, and I truly mean a lot. I knew I wanted rhinestones in between the two fins on her thigh, so before I glue in the second fin, I go in and stone that middle section, which would be much harder to reach with both fins attached. Now with all the fins glued on, I can finish stoning her legs. To me, these rhinestones were originally meant to mimic scales, but as I was gluing them on, I was also really inspired by the idea of barnacles growing on a shipwreck. I imagine this elemental girl has lived under the water for millions of years, so maybe the line between scales and barnacles is a bit blurry. Now onto the face up. I'm using all my regular equipment, the Faber-Castell watercolour pencils, Mangyo soft pastels, gouache and acrylic paint. I start by sketching out the eye shape, and start to build up layers of colours. I wanted to keep that light green and dark blue theme going, so I added that same gradient into her eyes. Here I'm using chalk pastel dust and a small brush to sketch out the base for her eyebrows. I actually found Lagoona sculpt quite challenging. I know a lot of customizers love her, but I actually found her large eye sculpt a bit tricky to work with. I start to blush her face with greens and navies and
all around me are familiar faces, worn out.
I erase her eyebrows. I guess this girl doesn't need them. I think her eyes were starting to look quite fish-inspired, which I loved, but they just didn't make sense with the brows, so they had to go. I continue blushing by adding greens around all the navy parts to blend them in. And of course her face gets the same glitter treatment as her body. I add more colour and detail to her eyes and start drawing in the lashes. Using a paint pen, I add a highlight to the tip of her nose and her lips, and then start painting the details in her iris. I wanted an effect that looked like her eyes were gleaming and shifting in the darkness of the deep sea, so the green and white details in her eyes are quite organic. I add the catch lights and gloss her eyes and lips to finish the face. For her hair, you guessed it, I'm doing a gradient of light green to navy blue. I make yarn wefts the traditional way, with a few different shades of light green, and after brushing them out, but before straightening them, I used a navy chalk pastel to colour the roots. Then, once I straighten them, the heat will lock the colour in place. I made a wig cap for this doll, as I plan on using a lot of styling product and having a lot of hair over the face. Having her hair on a wig cap will help me protect her face from any damage. I start the wig by marking where I want the part to be. This is, in my opinion, one of the biggest perks of making wig caps. It allows for really clean parts without having to use the flipping technique. Once I mark the part, I simply cut along the line. I glue the wefts on one at a time, starting at the nape of her neck and moving upwards. Once I get close to the part line, I simply insert the wefts and glue them from the inside, immediately creating a beautiful clean part. To style the wig, I first cover the head in Glad wrap to protect it. I use watered down Galaxy glue as a super simple doll hair gel alternative. I was aiming for a look that was part waves, part seaweed, and partly to seem as though she was floating underwater. Once I'm happy with the way it's styled, I simply glue it to her head to make it permanent. I knew I wanted to give her some kind of bikini-style top so that she wasn't completely naked, but it took a while for me to think of a solution that worked with her look. I decided to use the thermoplastic again, to create a top that also looked like it was a part of her. I made a pretty clumsy setup to help me melt the plastic in the shape I wanted, but it turned out pretty good. I love that even though it's a solid object, it has a lovely sense of movement. And, of course, I had to rhinestone it. I can't help myself. Once that's done, I use a green ribbon to add straps so she can wear it, and it can stay removable. Even though this top isn't really clothes, and I probably won't take it off her ever, I do like to always make my doll clothes removable. For her shoes, I created a wedge mould from a 2-part silicone putty and used epoxy resin to cast clear bases. I then added felt and ribbon to them in the same way I did for my Earth Elemental. If you haven't seen that video, I really recommend checking her out. I liked that the shoes were clear like her fins, but I wanted to add the same scale or barnacle effect as well. So, surprise surprise, I added rhinestones. Who could have seen that coming? Once she was wearing the shoes, I could add more stones to her calves. I didn't want them to get in the way of the ribbons, so I waited to finish them. However, as I was photographing her, I decided she looked less cluttered if I tied the ribbons lower near her ankles. And with that, she's all done. I named her Nixi. I hope you love her. If you like this doll or this video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram at Mr. Super Customs. Have an awesome day!